Hello everyone, good day to you all. My name is Adym Benedict Clarin, and I will be the first presenter of Chapter 6, Psychosocial, Psychosexual, and Humanist Theories of Learning. And I am joined by Andreeah Carias, Jacob Ralph Quirante, and Shaira Mumar, my colleagues in this group. Let's dive into it. In this lesson of Psychosocial, Psychosexual, and Humanist Theories of Learning, it explains how teachers should have an in-depth knowledge of how learners grow socially, emotionally, and morally for them to guide and assist learners in their formative years. But before that, we have a few goals to explain. So by the end of this lesson, hopefully the learners will be able to discuss the development of learners following the concepts of the different theories, assess classroom scenario or situations where learning theories are applied, and recommend appropriate dealings with learners applying the different theories. Okay, so let's go to the first lesson, which is Erikson's psychosocial theory and Freud's psychosexual theory. So in this lesson, I'm only going to talk about Erikson's psychosocial theory, the first 4 stages, and it will be followed by my next colleague, Shaira. So in this lesson, we have a few goals as well. So the first goal is, by the end of this lesson, we will be able to discuss the levels and stages of Kohlberg's moral development theory, explain the salient features of Kohlberg's moral development theory, and relate Kohlberg's moral development theory to current issues of learners. Okay, so first of all, let's explain Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory. So before that, who is Erik Erikson? So Erik Erikson was a German-American developmental psychologist and psychoanalyst who described the development of human beings from infancy to adulthood, from womb to before the tomb. So he stressed the importance of interpersonal, social, and cultural influences in the development of people. And each stage presents its own specific challenges, which he called crises. These crises presented challenges in an individual's identity, and successful development of the personality depends on meeting and overcoming these tasks or crises, according to Fleming 2004. So in these challenges, they're basically a test of the human. Therefore, success is determined if the person was able to overcome these tasks. It's just Erik Erikson coined the term. He called these challenges as crisis. Okay. So he also coined the term epigenetic principle, and these are the different stages because he believed that human beings develop through a predetermined unfolding of personalities in eight successive psychosocial changes. So the progress through each stage is in part determined by the success of lack of emotional forces. And these emotional forces are the syntonic, or the first listed positive disposition in each crisis. So first to explain disposition, it's basically a mental quality. So the first listed positive mental quality, that is what we call a syntonic. However, if it is the second listed negative mental quality or disposition, we call that a dystonic. And to explain further, there is a malignancy if there is too little of the positive and too much of the negative aspect. So malignancy meaning it's too bad. It's not good enough. There is an overcoming of the evil person. There are 2 wolves inside you. But in this scenario, if there is a malignancy, the bad wolf will be the one who will take over. However, there is a maladaptation if there is too much of the positive and too little of the negative. So if you're too much of being the hero and too much of being the goody good two-shoes and not being a complex character, there is a maladaptation as well, according to Sokol last 2019. So now let's go ahead to the first stage of the psychosocial stages of Erik Erikson. So the first stage is trust versus mistrust during infancy. This starts from when the baby is out of the womb and up to 18 months of their lifespan. And this stage develops the infants to trust others and letting them feel that they are cared for is a paramount concern. They should view the world as non-threatening. It is important in this stage where, well, it's not really important, but we can determine if a child developed a sense of trust or mistrust during this stage because of the amount of care and attention being given to them during this period. So when caregivers provide reliability, care, and protection, including basic needs such as shelter, food, water, etc., children will develop a sense of trust and a feeling of safeness and security. If not, it will lead to mistrust. It is seen in examples of when the main character is in a difficult position wherein the parents are absent, no attention is being given to the child, there are difficult circumstances wherein the basic needs are not able to be provided to the child. There is a sense of mistrust developed instead because, according to Erik Erikson, this is where it is vital that the sense of trust is developed. Okay. We can see this in characters like Katniss Everdeen and Eponine in Les Miserables because for Katniss there is a sense of mistrust because she had to pull herself together because her father died at a young age, and therefore she had to develop a sense of mistrust and not easily trusting people because of how she had to pick herself up as her parents were not very attention giving to her at a young age. And for Eponine from Les Miserables, we can see a sense of over development of trust because the man that she wants is in love with her, and she's in this delusion that she can trust him, and there's a sense of trust wherein there is no connection made between them. It's just a one-sided love. Therefore, a sense of too much trust is developed in Eponine. Yeah. In stage 2, it is about autonomy versus shame and doubt, and this is during early childhood. So this is from the ages 2 to 3 years old, and this is when children must be taught to take good care of themselves. And this includes feeding themselves, toilet training, and changing their clothes. So it is important that in this age, children are now being taught how to take care of themselves. They can be left alone and do basic things such as wiping your butt after pooping, or changing your clothes, or simply picking out what the child wants to wear for the day in this stage to develop a sense of autonomy and independence. Because this is where we can determine if they can stand alone or do they always need to rely on others. So parents should ensure that their children develop a sense of personal control over personal skills, because we are not raising royals. We are not raising people who can't take care of themselves, people who need slaves to pamper themselves and to put themselves together. No, we are raising children for the society that needs them to have personal control over their personal skills. And success leads to a feeling of autonomy, and failure results in feelings of shame and doubt. If the child is not being taught personal control, later on in life, they will develop a sense of shame and doubt, because they will think to themselves, I wasn't taught this by my parents, so I feel a sense of shame and doubt, because they have a sense of unsureness unto the things that they should do, because they weren't taught the basic things at a young age. Therefore, it causes them to question their actions. So, if this is I can think of perhaps Marie Antoinette, because she was raised with a silver spoon and surrounded by lavish things. Let them eat cake, she said, but in the end, she was clouded with shame and doubt, and eventually she got her head cut off. But Um, I can see this in myself. I don't know if this became a simple therapy session, but at a young age, I was taught to be very independent because, um, yeah, I was told what to. No, I wasn't told what to wear. I was given the liberty to choose what to wear, and then, yeah, how to feed myself, what I want. I remember a memory wherein I was very hungry and I pushed myself to make my own food and make brew Milo so that I could have some breakfast because I remember my mother was working and my father was out biking, so I woke up alone and I had to take care of myself. So I could say that I have a sense of autonomy myself. I can't think of. Oh, yeah. A character who has great autonomy is Matilda. You know Matilda? The Matilda with telekinetic abilities. But perhaps Matilda is not the one, it's not the right um, example here because she was the one taking good care of herself because her parents were too um, busy being parents, being absent parents. So I don't think Matilda is a good example for this. But yeah, you can see Matilda because at a young age she taught herself how to feed herself, how to clothe herself, and how to take care of herself because her parents didn't do that for her. Okay. So in stage 3, this is the last stage I will be discussing. So first, so stage 3 discusses initiative versus guilt, and this is during preschool ages. So children are now fond of doing things on their own, and exploration and play are crucial for them to learn new ideas to apply in their lives. And children need to assert control and power over their environment. Success results in a sense of purpose. If they exert too much effort and become too authoritative, they will feel a sense of guilt. So, this this aspect, this stage can be related to us being teachers. That we need to provide an avenue wherein children can be in total control of themselves and assert control and power, because with this, it develops a sense of initiative wherein they have to do things for themselves for progress. Because, in a sense, it creates a sense of purpose for the child, and if they don't have the sense of initiative, they can become a sense of guilt because if they don't have initiative, they will be scolded for not having an initiative, and they will eventually be feeling much guilt. And to further discuss, preschool teachers should ensure that they are given sufficient opportunities to select choices and act independently. For example, in arts, a teacher may give a chance for pupils to choose what color or paper to use, and they can chunk activities so they could take risks, meaning they can put in more activities for the child to and put more activities and more avenues for the child to become independent and have initiative to choose what they want to do. And completing nothing without any sense of independence and authority may cause them to feel guilty. To explain that, if there is too much guidance, too rigidness, there is no sense of freedom. There is no sense of control. It's like you're being told what to do, but if you are left alone later on in life, there will be no sense of authority. All right. So that's it for my part. I have discussed the first 3 stages, and now will be further discussed by my co-mate, Shaira. I hope you learned something new from my lesson, parts of the lesson, and let's go on to the next reporter.
Hello everyone, good day. This is Shaira Mumar, and this is the continuation of third part of Group 6 about Erickson's psychological theory. So, the stage 4, or what we call skull age, this major this major conflict of this stage is all about industry versus inferiority. So in the fourth stage, it deals with the ages of 5 to 13 years old. At this stage, levels of maturity and self-awareness are increased. This stage, this is the age where children spend more time with their peers and teachers than with their parents. Failure to succeed socially causes the feeling of inferiority. So at this stage, teachers need to guide the children to feel successful in their own way. In the classroom, learning activities should be rich, controlling difficultly. So children should have the feeling of accomplishment by working and studying hard. So let's proceed to the stage 5 or the adolescence. This major conflict is all about identity versus rule confusion. So the stage 5 deals with the ages of 13 to 21 years old. In this stage, people fall away from the influences of their peers and teachers and start determining their own identity. So at this stage of maturity, identity versus role confusion is developed. Social relationship is being developed. They should discover what morals and are fitted in a social circle as young adolescents. They want to be identified to others, but others may be doubtful what morals are appropriate for their age. Failure to do what is appropriate may result to role confusion. So there's a need that teacher to ensure children to have opportunities to develop a sense of self and personal identity through helping each other in carrying tasks and activities. So let us proceed to the next stage, what we call young adulthood, or this major conflict is intimacy versus isolation. So in this stage deals with ages 21 to 39. At this stage, young adults want to find right partners. During this time, a person begins to settle and want to start a family. So, at this stage, young adults want to find right partners. Finding right partners is hard to do. So there's failure to do so. So resulting of being afraid to be alone in their lives. So or being isolated the rest of their lives. So young people interact mostly with others, so they have the feeling of intimacy with others and loneliness when no one no one can be talked to. So according to this theory, finding else that can be shared to, in our life is not always the norm. So some prefer to be single and find a significant friendly relationship with peers and colleagues. So Let us now proceed to the stage 7, which is what called middle adulthood, or this measure of conflict is generativity versus stagnation. So in the stage 7 deals with ages 40 to 65 years old. In this stage, the two biggest responsibilities is their career and their children. When you reach in this stage of adult, you are already a professional. So you have now a career to do something to serve the community. You have the responsibility to teach children if you are a teacher. So you teach well so you can live incredible locally to the young generation. So in doing so, you feel your usefulness or generativity in our nation, and failure to do it cause inactivity or stagnation. So let us now proceed to the last stage of psychological theory, which is the maturity. So this measure of conflicts is all about ego integrity versus despair. So in this stage deals with ages 65 and older, or 65 and 65 and that and to death. So adults who have reached this stage are already thinking what they have contributed something valuable while they are still young. So they are already retired and feel the sense of fulfillment. They can feel the sense of wisdom, ego, and integrity. Failure to leave something valuable to the young generation means regret, bitterness, and despair. So in the stage 8, this stage is about life reflection. So this is the end of my topic. I hope you learned something for today, and thank you for listening. Thank you for listening, and God bless us all.
Good day, everyone. I am Andreeah Carias from BSED English Tutu. And today we must talk about Sigmund Freud's psychosexual theory. So without further ado, let's get started. Sigmund Freud's psychosexual theory states the need to satisfy basic biological needs. So when we say biological needs, it is our basic needs. These are the air, the food, the water, the shelter, clothing, warmth, sleep, and etc. So his theory, also known as the theory of libidinal development. So when we say libidinal development, it is one of the earliest theory explaining how personality develops in human beings. He posited a series of universal development stages in which physic energy becomes focused in different erogenous zones. So physic energy, it refers to the biological based instinctual drives that energize behavior, thoughts, and feeling. So when we say erogenous zones, these are the areas of the body that become erotically sensitive in successive stages of development. It is through this premise that the personality structure of a human being is also influenced. So let's proceed to the personal structure of human being. So first we have the id, second ego, and last software ego. I know that we are all familiar with this because we tackled this last year. And so ed, it is known as the biological drives with which the infant is born. It is said to be the earliest and most primitive personality structure and refers to the unconscious and usually operates with the goal of seeking pleasure. So when we say ed, it is the primitive and instinctive component of personality. So it is part of the unconscious mind. So we should always remember that unconscious mind, the ed. And then ego. The structure is the rational, logical, problem-solving component of personality. So ego, it is the mediator between the ed and the world. It's what the person is aware of when they think about themselves, and it is what they usually try to project towards other. And it is part of conscious mind. Then we have software ego. So what should so it is the structure based on the child's internalization of the adult's attributes, beliefs, and standards. So when we say super ego, it is incorporating the values, the morals of society, which are learned from one's parent to others. It is part of the pre-conscious mind. So, according to Pride, personality development takes place through constant activation of life instinct. For him, the first 5 years of life are determined for the formation of personality. So now let's proceed to the 5 psychosexual theory according to Freud. So the following is the tabular presentation of the theory psychosexual and psychosocial. So these are the summary of psychosexual stages according to Freud. We have oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. So first, we tackle first the oral. So oral, birth to 1 year. Infants find pleasure in doing oral activities like sucking, chewing, and biting. Hence, feeding activities are vital. In effect, infants, when too early or abruptly, may later crave close contact and become over-dependent on a spouse. So in this oral stage, the focus of the pleasure is on the mouth, and the mother breast is the object of desire. So second is anal, 1 to 3 years. Gratification is primarily caused by voluntary urination and defecation. Thus, toilet training produces major conflicts between the children and parent. The emotional climate that parents create can have lasting effects. For example, children who are punished for toileting accident may be messy, topsy-turvy, or wasteful. So in adult stage, the focus of pleasure is on the anus. The child finds pleasure in holding back and expelling feces. And then the phallic, 3 to 6 years. So gentle stimulation causes gratification at this stage. Children develop incestuous desire of the opposite sex parent. Oedipus complex for boys. an electrocomplex for girls. Anxiety stemming from this conflict causes children to internalize the sex role characteristics and moral standards of their same sex parental rival. So in Palek stage, the focus of pleasure is on the genital area. The child experiences an Oedipus or Electra complex. So let's proceed to the latency. 6 to 11 years. Traumas of phallic stage cause sexual conflicts to be repressed and sexual urges to be rechanneled into schoolwork and vigorous play. The ego and superego continue to develop as the child gains more problem-solving abilities at school and internalizes societal values. So in this latency stage, the earlier conflicts are repressed and there is less or a focus on sexual fixation. And then we have genital 12 years onward. So puberty or awakening of sexual urges. Adolescents must now learn how to express these urges in socially acceptable ways. So if developmental has been healthy, the mature sex instinct is satisfied by marriage and raising children. So in genital stage, you can say that sexual desires become conscious with the onset of puberty. So that's it. The 5 psychosexual theory according to Freud. The oral, the anal, Pollock, latency, and genital stage. So what could be the main point of psychosexual stage? So the main point of psychosexual stage is to capture the main growth point of a person from infancy to adulthood. And it focuses on different facets of want, needs, and desires. So now let's proceed to the experience. So classrooms in the 21st century are filled with a variety of students in terms of needs, abilities, talent, and potentials. Hence, understanding the unconscious feelings of the varied learners may be used to motivate them. So another way to apply psychoanalysis is by using role playing. During a controlled role play, the student can realize how rules are played in a particular setting and stage. In a 21st century classroom, learner directed activities can enhance initiative and leadership. Meanwhile, teachers should avoid ridiculing students' ideas because it can impede the flourishing of their initiative. So, in other words, role playing is to encourage students to think more critical about complex and controversial subjects and see situations from a different perspectives. And then, moreover, giving students varied sets of realistic goals and assigning specific jobs to them, like collecting papers and distributing handouts, will also give them a sense of accomplishment. Reducing inferiority among students can be aided by constant feedback to their performance. Yes. So teachers who leave the students without any report or improvement might cause learners inferiority. So you can say that in this, there's no learning anymore when the teachers leave the student without any report. So providing role models of adolescent learners and teaching them about gender equality may increase the awareness of their self-identity and self-worth. So opportunities to incorporate academic success into their identities can also boost the appreciation of their worth as a future professionals. And I think this was the end of my report. So now let's give the floor to the next reporter, Mr. Quirante. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Jacob Ralph S. Quirante, and I'm here to talk about Kohlberg's moral development theory. So first off, the objectives. After completing this lesson, you will be able to define Kohlberg's moral development theory. Create a graphic organizer of the 6 stages of moral development theory, then demonstrate the relevance of the moral development theory. So this is Kohlberg's moral development theory. Before we dive in further, we should remember that there are 3 levels of Kohlberg's moral development theory. The first one is the pre-conventional level. The second is the conventional level. Then third is the post-conventional level. We're going to tackle about this, or we're going to know more about this in the next slide. But first, we're going to talk about how did Kohlberg come up with this theory. So, Kohlberg identified 6 stages of moral reasoning grouped into 3 major levels. So, ang 3 major levels ang giwasabot ano is the previous slide, which is the pre-conventional, conventional, then the post-conventional level. And among those 3 levels, there are 6 stages. Each level has 2 stages, kumbaga. And each level represents a significant change in the social moral reasoning or perspective of the person. The best known moral dilemma created by Kohlberg is the Heinz dilemma, which discusses the idea of obeying the law versus saving a life. So, gaproduce or gi-introduce ni Heinz ang Heinz gi-produce ni Kohlberg, ang Heinz dilemma. Sa pagkabaw niya na ang bata is mag-change gyud pagdako ang iyang moral reasoning. Kung sa iyang pagtuo sa bata sa paggamay pa, ma-change siya over time. Inig mo grow na siya, inig mo dako siya, inig mo mature. Na-prove ni Heinz ni so let's get to know the Heinz dilemma that Kohlberg introduced. So the story goes like this. A woman was near death from a special kind of cancer. This is Heinz's wife. There was one drug that the doctors thought might save her. It was a form of radium that a druggist in the same town had recently discovered. So ang wife ni Heinz di ay na cancer. Then, for a fortunate event, naapoy nakaproduce og cure. And ang druggist is the same town na pod nila. And the drug was expensive to make. But the druggist was charging 10 times what the drug cost him to produce. So ga-charge ang druggist og 10 times sa pag-produce niya sa adto na drug. Even if $200 lang siya pero iyang gi 10 times good. So nahimo siyang ang price adto nahimong $2,000 ang drug. The sick woman's husband Heinz went to everyone he knew to borrow the money, but he could only get together about $1,000, which is half of what it cost. So Heinz nangada siya paagi nang borrow siya nang walam siya kwarta sa mga amigo or something. Then iyang na-accumulate na kwarta is $1,000, which is half of what it cost kay $2,000 man ang drug. So what did Heinz did? He told the druggist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it cheaper or let him pay later. So ni-beg siya sa druggist na pwede lang isa lang na cheaper lang. Or muna siya $1,000, then after na siya mubayad sa 2,000 if makakuha siya kwarta. And guess what the druggist said? The druggist said, "No, I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it." So Heinz got desperate and broke into the man's store to steal the drug for his wife. So, ni ayon ang druggist sa offer ni Heinz. Instead, Heinz got desperate and he stole the drug sa laboratory sa katong druggist. So that begs the question. Should Heinz have broken into the laboratory to steal the drug for his wife? Why or why not? Then the question that Kohlberg introduced or said is, did Heinz did the right thing? Gibuhat ba ni Heinz ang sakto? Or should Heinz have stolen the drugs for his wife? Should Heinz have stolen the drug for his wife? Sakto ba na gikawat ang drug para sa wife niya? You might answer yes or you might answer no. Depende sa imong moral reasoning. Para makabaw ta sa inyong moral reasoning dire, nakoy 3 option ng igama. Mapili lang mo ani o unsay ang gusto or unsay sakto para ninyo na buhaton ni Heinz adto or iyang buhaton gid ba na adto na situation, adto na dilemma. So Heinz should not steal the drugs since he would be breaking the law. Second, Heinz should steal the drug and accept any person's sentence. Or third, Heinz should steal the drugs and not go to prison as this is unfair. So so I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to choose which of this option is the right thing for you. Og sakto gyud siya. So maput to test ang inyong moral reasoning ani na we're going to know asa mo na belong sa dyan 3 levels na Heinz moral development theory. Kung asa mo adto repita na belong o asa ga-revolve inyong thought process or inyong moral reasoning gid. So remember the numbers 1, 2, 3. And remember also the sentence. So there are 3 levels of moral development, as I've said. Wait. Okay. The first level is the pre-conventional. So if you pick the option 1, this is where your moral reasoning revolves around the stage 1 or stage 2. So obedience and punishment. The worse the punishment, the worse the action must have been. Individual acts to avoid punishment. So if we're going to relate this to Heinz thought process or moral reasoning would be, di na buhaton to ang pagkawat sa katong drug since that would put me to prison or worse. Pwede ko mamatay adto. I might die while doing the act. Diba? Mao ang thought process ni Heinz. Obedience and punishment. Stage 1. Stage 2 is the instrumental orientation or self-interest. Like what's in it for me. Unsay makuha na ko ani. Right is whatever is in my best interest, then concern for others limited to their benefit to me. So if we're going to relate this to Heinz moral reasoning would be buhaton na ako tong pagkawat sa drug. Ang kawaton tong drug since that would make my wife happy. I'm happy yung wife. Or di na ito buhaton to itong pagkawat sa drug, di na kawatan since that would put me in much more anguish in prison than my wife dying. So mas worse pa daw ang mapriso siya, ang anguish na makuha sa prisuhan kumpara sa mamatay iyang wife. So self-interest, diba? So if you pick this number 1, then your moral reasoning revolves around these 2 stages. The pre-conventional level. Then if we're going to the second level, the conventional, if you pick the option 2, then your moral reasoning revolves also around these 2 stages, the stage 3 and stage 4. So concerned with society's rule and expectations. Stage 3, getting along and conforming. The good boy and good girl mentality. Concern for what others think. So if we're going to relate this to the Heinz dilemma, Heinz moral reasoning would be ang kawaton tong drug since that would make me a good husband sa akong wife. Or yung moral reasoning or thought process would be di na kawatan tong drug since di mo kawatan unsa na lay ang iingon sa mga tao nako sa akong society if ang out tong kawatan. So concern for what others think. And moving on to stage 4, authority and social order. Respect for laws and rules because they create order in society. Breaking the law is wrong and respect for others is the golden rule. So Heinz thought moral reasoning or thought process would be in the stage 4. Di na kawaton tong drug since that would put me in prison. And breaking the law is wrong. Illegal na siya na pagbuhat. Di na kawaton to kay illegal. So nga na ang yung thought process or yung moral reasoning ni Heinz. Or let's say na yung thought process would be like this. Na, ang kawaton tong drug since kinahanglan, then I would pay the consequences of my action. Mo serve ko sa prison, then I would compensate or akong bayran tong drugis sa katong drug. O ngana, respect for others, the golden rule. So, ga-revolve ang thought process ni Heinz if ever. But it is not because what yung gibuhat ni Heinz is yung gikawat, di ba? Wa niya nasunod ang law and order sa society. And po siya pake if that would make him a good person, or what might others think of him. So if you choose the option 2, then your moral reasoning, according to Kohlberg, it revolves around these two stages. The conventional level ka. Then if we go to the level 3, the post-conventional, if you pick the option 3, then your moral reasoning also revolves around these two stages, the stage 5, then stage 6. The stage 5 is the social contract understanding. Laws and rules are social contracts that should create the greatest good for the most people. Majority decision and compromise. So if we're going to relate this to Heinz' dilemma, Heinz' thought process or moral reasoning would be, di nakawaton tong drug since the druggist or katong gabuhat sa drug really put their sweat and blood sa paggama gid ani. Then they deserve compensation sa ilang gibuhat sa ilang pag-discover sa drug. So nga na ang thought process ani. It's all about empathy. Bali ang stage 5 is all about human rights. Ginahuna nimo ang i-consider nimo unsa nga feel sa tao adto. Then or we could say ang kawaton ng drug since kinahanglan sa akong wife gid. Diba ngana pod siya, pwede pod siya ngana. Since you are you what do you call this? You put the greatest good for the most people. Giuna nimo ang kapakanan sa ubang tao. Mano siya? Human rights. Stage 6 is the universal ethical principles, or commonly it's the human ethics. If the stage 5 is the human rights, then stage 6 is the human ethics. Laws are valid only if grounded in justice. And individual acts because it is right, gibuhat ninyo kay sakto. Because it is legal, not because it is legal, useful, or expected. Gibuhat ninyo ang sakto gid. Example of this is Heinz' thought process would be di na steal tong drug since what akabaw na there's people na mas badly needed pag yun ang drug adto. Mas kinahanglan pa nila kaysa sa akong wife. Diba? Giuna ni mapakaran sa tao. Ganun na ka na what if na tao pa na mas kinahanglan adto na jaim gikawat, diba? So di na makawatan gud. Then or we could say kawato na itong drug since mas importante ang kinabuhi sa tao kaysa maadto pa ko sa prison. Kaysa sa prison sentence na ako madawat right after. Diba? Magiuna ang kapakanan sa tao. Like you say that the life of a person is the most fundamental than getting into prison and serving your sentence. Diba? Nga na ang thought process. Ang stage 6. So did Heinz go with the level 3, the post conventional ba siya? What do you think? Ani ba siya nabilang sa stage sa level 3, level 2, or level 1? So I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something in my presentation, and have a nice day ahead.